I can tell you've been crying and you're needing somebody to talk to. Girl, I can tell he's been lying and pretending that he's faithful and he loves you. Girl, you don't have to be hiding. Don't you be ashamed to say he hurt you. I'm your girl, you're my girl, we're your girls. Won't you know that we love you?
Thank you for tuning into Three Queens and Things, a space where queens connect. Our podcast will be bringing you the latest and greatest on topics of self-love and womanhood. Today, we will be diving into mental and emotional health. My name is Mimi.
My name is Ati.
I'm Sola T.
And we're Three Queens and Things.
Today's topic is on mental and emotional health. We call this one, You Good?
Girl, you good?
You all right?
Mimi, you good? Ati, you good?
I'm good right now.
Right now. Okay.
So before we dive into today's topic fully, let's go ahead and jump into our round table. I'm just going to throw a couple questions out. Y'all let me know your thoughts on it. So in regards to mental and emotional health, what role do you feel like music plays in your life? Does that help you stay stable? Does that help you stay like...
Yeah, I think music is definitely a healer for me, or at least a space to connect. There's a certain playlist, there's certain artists that I go to listen to when I'm feeling a certain type of way. And it either kind of helps me stay in that space, because sometimes I just need to get sad, cry it out, go through a breakup, turn on that Mary J, bump it.
I'm not gonna cry.
Sometimes I just need to be in that space. And other times I need to be in a different space. And so I think music has always helped guide me in those spaces.
Oh, I definitely agree. I feel like I get in my moods. My music helps me get through whatever I'm feeling. If I'm in my feelings, I'm feeling sad, let me just go ahead and put on some Drake and cry it out on this ride home because I'm over here. No, but really.
Why she do Drizzy like that?
For example. But no, music definitely helps me get through whatever I'm going through. If I'm hype, I'm about to go out, I put on some Jeezys. I'm a little trapped.
She said
Jeezy. But really, music.
Trap or die.
No, but music helps.
Music is life for me. I grew up in a household where my mom sang, my dad was a musician. We always listen to music, so I'd rather listen to music than turn on the TV. So music is everything. I'll put on my gospel when I feel like I need to cry. I'm feeling emotional. I need I need my God to guide me through song. Yeah.
So who are some artists that y'all listen to when you're in a bad mood to uplift your spirit? Who do y'all put on?
Well, I got bad mood and I want to stay in that bad mood, and I got bad mood I need to snap
get
out of it.
Yeah.
So I think bad mood want to get out of it, definitely a gospel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I turn on my Ernest Pugh. I turn on some of my Tamala Man, and I just get in the shower and just turn it up. A bad mood, bad mood and wanting to stay in a bad mood, I really kind of turn on some trap music, because it just allows me to kind of just keep space of where I am and kind of just vibe out, and it doesn't necessarily rise me to another type of occasion, but I love me some ratchet music anyway.
I'm a little bit the same, so I do turn to my gospel music when I feel like I need to. When I want to get over it and I'm looking for that song to touch me, I'll put on my Yolanda Adams, my Kirk Franklin. If, like you said, if you want to stay in that mood and kind of just vibe out, I definitely turn into a drug dealer. And I listen to 2 Chainz.
Don't we all?
So I be trapping out the bando.
What about when y'all want to chill? Who do y'all put on?
That's when you turn on like some SZA, some Childish Gambino, some
Janae.
new art. You know what I turn on? I have an Apple Music playlist that's a chill. It comes out on Sundays. I just turn that on because I get to listen to some new artists.
Yeah.
Kind of R&B, I would say, is kind of the space I go to when I just want to chill.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a 90s R&B when I just want to chill, get my wine out. My guy, Jagged Edge.
Oh, girl, you done brought the Jagged John B.
John
Joe.
B. Yes.
Okay, bring them all. Next. Okay, everybody can come.
Yeah, no, definitely. What music do you listen to when you're in a turn up mood, which I guess kind of goes back to what we were saying.
Everything.
Mm-hmm.
I told you I listen to trap daily, so I don't know. I listen to Gucci.
She said
Rick
daily.
Ross.
Gucci is forever, for life. Okay, Gucci, old Gucci, new Gucci.
Gucci. Right.
I love me some Drake. I love like some, West African music. I just anything that got like a little 8 or a little beat.
Mm-hmm.
Because I forever wish I could dance. I don't have much rhythm, and I'm not a talented singer.
All that black girl?
Girl, all that, it just be moving.
All that ass just going away.
It just be moving. It don't be strategic. So I think anything that just kind of makes me move around, something I can feel like I'm a drug dealer too.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Just a bando.
We want to be drug dealers so bad.
Girl, I'm telling you,
But I
in my
love
previous
that
life, I was like,
Yeah.
in my previous life.
Nauticals.
Okay.
So I think it's good to kind of start with music, because when I think about mental and emotional health, I know for me that's played a big part in terms of thinking of kind of a coping mechanism or just a release. But the other day I saw this meme on Facebook that said Black women be wanting to stop and cry so badly, but there's shit to do. And seeing that just really hurt my heart, because
It's true.
it part of it is very true, but part of it is very, all of it is very unhealthy. And I know I've been in those situations before where it's like, dang, like, right, like why can't this be something, like why can't I release in a way? And I felt that pressure that I can't cry right now. I got to suck it up, do what you got to do, especially when it comes to anything to do with my professional life.
Mm-hmm.
You got to suck that shit up and make it work.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that that's a healthy message. So based on that, like, do you think we have to choose between, being successful and being strong and being hard and making it through and being sensitive and
I've heard that for,
and being
especially
vulnerable?
For Black women. My last boss at my old job, she would tell me all the time, like, I didn't get this far. I've been in this company 18 years, and I didn't get this far by just making friends with everybody. I had to, because she had this, everybody walked around not really scared of her, but intimidated by her because she was such a strong woman. You can tell she was sure of herself, and I built a relationship with her to where we became friends in a sense, and I could tell that wasn't her. It was just something she did at work, but she told me, like, you have to do this in this corporate world. They will, especially with all these older white men, especially being in leadership, I got to come in here and make them take me seriously. And the only way I can do that is to come in here and make everybody intimidated. Yeah.
Being emotional or crying or whatever, I feel like it's looked at like a luxury. Like, I don't have the luxury of doing that because, like you said, I got things to do.
That's taken away from time.
Yeah, it's going to take away. I got people to see. It got to get done. If I sit and stop and mope about it, it ain't going to get done. So brush it off and keep it moving. Yes, it's so unhealthy. However, that's just what I feel like we have to do.
I don't know if it's a Black woman thing, though. I feel like if I know men that I feel like you need a good cry, brother. Yeah. Like, you holding this.
No, but that's the,
yeah,
like,
that's
I've
true.
Seen men that just need to cry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's so sad that we put them in a space that it's looked at as gay, or it's looked at as you not being man enough. And really, crying is a part of our human tendency.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we need to release things. We cannot let things build up. And I think that with Black women and Black men in particular, I see this message as a reality for a lot of people. And it makes me very sad.
But it's like, who told you that you had to? I mean, I guess it's just a thing. Men are supposed to be hard all the time. But you ain't always on
as a
stage.
woman who told us that we could, as a Black woman who told us we couldn't cry, because I believe a lot of people feel this way. Like, I know that I would not feel comfortable ever crying at work.
Oh, yeah. No.
And I don't know, but you know what I mean? Like, there's women who don't feel that.
Right.
Like, if they would need to cry, they would just cry.
Mm-hmm.
But there's things that I do that I cannot see. I feel like I have to be a warrior.
You have to keep your game face on.
Yeah.
I'll cry in the car.
I mean,
but when I come back, I'm gonna be regular again. I'm gonna be me again.
Even outside a professional setting, though, do you feel like you ever felt like it wasn't there's a space where it's not okay for you to cry? Like, yeah, it goes without saying, like, at work you can't just break down in tears at your desk, but like, it just in
People
real
do,
life,
though.
if some shit hurt your feelings, like, do you feel like, no, I need to be here, I need to gather myself, or do you ever feel like it's okay for you to just be like, you know what, this hurt my feelings, I'm gonna let you know how I feel, and I might cry while I'm telling you?
I don't necessarily think I've cried out of being emotional or sad. I've cried out of anger.
Mm-hmm.
I've dealt with some jobs, some situations that I wouldn't wish upon anybody. And my go-to is, okay, I'm about to fight. Somebody gonna get these hands. That's my attitude, but I can't do it because I'm at work. So I'm gonna cry because I'm that angry.
I don't think for me, like outside of where I've grown a lot with my tears, just because I went to college in a very interesting situation. I went to a very private, not a very private, a very Christian liberal arts private school. So out of about 3,500 students, there were less than 50 Black women on campus, period. And so I remember the day that I became comfortable with crying. And it's because I just started crying in the lunchroom. And I had nothing triggered me. It's just that it was a buildup, and I was talking to my professor, and I just started bawling.
Wow.
And I was so embarrassed. I think I went in my room and cried because of how embarrassed I was. And I think that really sat with me to be like, wow, I'm on campus trying to be an advocate. I'm doing all these things. I'm trying to get my life together. I'm trying to take these next steps to be successful. And that wasn't in my career. That was just me personally dealing with a lot of things that I know I felt that I couldn't sit down and cry about this. I had shit to do.
Right.
And so when the rubber met the road, whether I wanted to or not, those tears came. And I had to, that's the moment I became more comfortable. So what I do now is I watch shit that makes me cry. If I feel like it hasn't been a while since I've gotten that out, I watch Ayanla on Saturdays. And faithfully,
that'll make you cry.
That makes me cry. And I've had to become, because I know that this is something that I subconsciously, I'm a warrior. And so if I do not consciously make a decision to create these releases for myself, then I know that I am at risk to slip back into my depression, because depression is something that I battle every day. So that is something that I have to be aware of, and I have to be strategic with. But that's definitely taken a lot of life experiences for me to learn that. But this meme really, it really sat with me, because I remember feeling that way in my professional and my personal life.
It's crazy how we've related everything to do with like being in a good place emotionally with crying. So like, do we feel like if you don't cry that you can't be emotionally like stable? Like, do you feel like it's necessary for you to get those emotions?
It's necessary to get it out.
But people channel you don't have to cry necessarily to be in a good place emotionally. Like, people channel their feelings in a different way.
Absolutely. I think for me, because as a Black woman, I'm given so many messages that I can't cry, that I can't be sensible, I can't be vulnerable. That's why that conversation steers that way. But I think it's the same thing about, hearing all the connotations about being an angry Black woman and really choosing to be celebratory and having to deal with people be like, why are you so positive all the time? And all of that. Like, I think those are all things that, those are different. Being positive is that way, is one of those releases for me. Yeah. Because I know that because I battle depression, that if I'm not intentional with this, I will be in a different space. Right. But I do think there are more, absolutely, I think there are more ways than tears. But because of my experience and the messages that I've been sent about what it means to cry, how that means weakness, that's why, I center my conversation in that way.
I'm a crier, y'all.
I'm sensitive. Naturally.
Listen, I'm about to tell. I don't hold in stuff. Maybe it's because I'm sensitive Cancer. I don't know. But everybody gonna hear what I gotta say.
Aries, the horns be coming
and
out
I'm probably gonna cry when I tell you, because that's just who I am. I'm just emotional. But no, I know it's a time to let your feelings out. And I know there's times to keep it to yourself. So definitely in a professional setting, I've never let my feelings show like that. But any other time, yes, I am this is how I feel. And this is why I feel that way. And this is what you're going to do to fix it. And I'm probably crying while I'm saying it. So I've never felt like I never really feel like I've gotten to the point where I'm just about to burst with emotion, because I've just held it all in, because I'm very much like, here you go.
I'm emotional. I'm a crybaby. But I will tell you about yourself and then cry in the same breath. It's very dysfunctional. It's very crazy. But yeah, I think I release. In a way, I have to cry and let it out. Yeah. I have to.
I'm a talker. So talking things out is how I'm not a crier. I'm going to ask you questions. I want to know. I'm going to try to seek understanding. But that's why I have to watch Ayanla, because Sunday through Friday, I'm not going to be crying. I can't tell you when the last time was that I cried about something that I wasn't watching on TV.
But I cry when I'm happy. You know, if I'm really happy for someone that I'm close to, I cry during celebrations. I cry during birthdays. I cry during anniversaries. Like I'm a crybaby.
That's so interesting. So, what are some personal issues that you've struggled with, whether that be mental or emotional, and how have you learned to understand what caused them, if you are able to understand?
Wow.
That's a good question. I remember actually a few years back, I was in a place where like my job and stuff that I wasn't really happy. That was when I had put on like a lot of weight and stuff. And there were a number of things that I know I wasn't really happy with, but I didn't realize that there were things that were like really bothering me. And I was talking to one of my friends one time, and she was like, "Hey girl, haven't seen you in a while. How's everything going?" And we're talking and catching up. And I'm like you were saying, just in the middle of the conversation, like I'm telling her, like, everything's good. I wish this was better. I'm working on doing this. I'm trying to like improve this. And I'm just telling her the stuff that I'm working on. And I just started crying. And I looked around and I got embarrassed, like you said. And I just kind of got embarrassed and like stopped for a second. I was like, you know what? Even though I'm a crier, I didn't mean to cry in that setting. So it kind of like took me back. And I'm like, I'm good. I kind of brushed it off. Like, I'm tripping. My period must be coming or something, because I don't know. But, yeah, I had to step back. Like after that conversation, she texted me and was like, you know what, just after talking to you, I feel like I just need to reach out to you and tell you it's okay to not be okay. And she was like, and for you to say that you didn't really know why you were crying, because she asked me like, what's wrong? While I'm talking to her, she was over my back like, what's wrong? Like, we were just talking and everything was good. Right. And so we had a conversation later in the evening, and she was just like, if you're crying and you don't know why, you need to sit down and maybe put some stuff on paper and like sort some things out. And it really was, I just wasn't happy with where I was in life, like what I was doing for work and with my body and myself personally. I had just gone through a breakup, and, you just kind of brush those things off. Like, it happens. I still, right. But it really bothered me more than I realized it did.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most dangerous things that a person can ever tell me. It's whatever, or I'm good. Those are things I'm always curious, like, but are you though?
Yeah.
Because it's we're all taught to, I'm good, I'm okay, I'll deal with it, I'll bounce back, but like there's something that's not okay, and that needs attention.
Well, I feel like too, like I say that a lot, and my thinking behind it is I have to be okay. Like I don't have a choice. Like, yeah, there's always gonna be stuff in life that you don't like, but for me to sit here and talk to you about it, like for what? Like me was saying, I don't really have time. Like, yeah, it's not okay, but it has to be right now, because I'm not in a place where I can fix it this second. So I'm good. Like, I'm going to be good. Like, what good is it going to do for me to sit here and discuss it with you as if you can fix it for me?
To me, the way that I look at that is that growth is already going to take a lot of time. So fixing that, so you might as well start now. You might as well pinpoint. But like you said, it's not going to be fixed tomorrow. But I think investing in yourself is one of the best things you can do.
Of course.
How we talked about like how we cope with these personal issues, or healthy or unhealthy examples. Like what do those look like?
I think through my depression, I think one thing that I would do a lot, and what's a signal for me that I'm not doing well, is sleeping a lot. Mm-hmm. I would get to my dorm room and I would just go to sleep. Yeah. And people would come and knock on my door, and I would just be asleep. And so I know that that's something for me. And really, I really was able to explore my depression in college, because it just kept coming out. It was one of those things where I'm good. For real, y'all, I'm good. And I wasn't. And I remember having a meeting with the provost of our college, and it was me and one of my friends, and we had been doing a lot of work on our campus just about shit that was happening. And he told us that he thought it was good that we would get some counseling. And I was so heated walking out that office, like, how dare you? You supposed to be making sure that shit is together, and you going to sit here and tell me to just go to talk to somebody, and I'm sitting here talking to you, telling you what's wrong. And then my ass went to sign up for counseling.
Why do we feel like counseling is such a slap in the face for like...
I didn't know nobody ever went to no counseling.
Right.
Like when he was saying this, I'm like, you saying there's something wrong with me. Mm-hmm. And there was something wrong with the way that I was feeling, and I needed to own that. And so I went to therapy. I had individual sessions. I went to group therapy. And then I still am in therapy. And I don't do these things when I'm in crisis. Of course, I would get the attention that I need. I really am intentional about going to, finding a therapist when I was not in a moment of crisis,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that you can kind of be like, okay, life's better now. But no, I need to consistently speak to somebody about the things that are happening, even if it's just the fact that that person is listening.
Mm-hmm.
So therapy has been a healthy way. Sleeping, removing myself, being very antisocial. Those are ways that I've acted in the before, the behaviors I participated in before that were not healthy.
Looking back, I feel like I just struggled with the depression about a year or so ago. That was like a lot of my unhappy moments came from like my body image. Like I talked about in the last episode, like I was very depressed that I had even let myself do that to myself, like get that unhealthy, and I was just angry at myself. And I was angry at everybody else too. That's how I dealt with it. Like I would sleep, like you said, I would just hide in the house. And then when I was around people, I was very like mean towards my friends. I was mean towards my family. They would ask me if I was like, yeah, I'm okay. Why you ask me if I'm okay? Of course I'm okay.
Defensive, yeah. I've dealt with depression as an adult. However, I know as a child, a young child, an adolescent, I really went through a dark space. And I didn't really have anybody to talk to at that point. I felt like I couldn't turn to my mom, my dad, my sisters. I didn't feel like anybody would understand. It's kind of hard to say. So when I was 11 or 12, I was molested, and I didn't know what to do. I already didn't feel good about myself, so I didn't know how to feel, how to process it, and my parents didn't know how to talk to me about it. My mother didn't know how to offer any healing to me, so I remember many days and many nights just sitting in my room and just writing out my feelings and just getting them out on paper. And I remember just wanting to not be here anymore. I remember wanting to kill myself as a kid. And I didn't know. I was just going crazy within myself. So I don't know how I got out of it. I just prayed. I just prayed to God, and I knew I didn't want to be in that space anymore. And yeah, I just worked myself through it. Like I said, I didn't have anybody to turn to, but me. So
I feel like that happens a lot in Black households where families don't know really how to. It's not talked about that depression is something, and suicide isn't something that's talked about.
Anxiety.
It's not something that exists. I guess if you don't talk about it, it doesn't happen, or it's not something that's real. And I think that is what creates when we get to be adults, like from not dealing with it or not seeing anybody deal with their own depression. Because now looking back, I believe that depression runs in my family. I think my father has serious, severe depression. And it scares me because also I feel like my brother has sometimes certain traits of that too. I kind of see traces of that too, but we don't talk about it. Like I see that my brother kind of does things that I see my dad do, and I'm more than positive my dad has depression, but we don't discuss it. It's almost like
that's just the way he is.
You'll take care of it, and we're okay. We have to be okay.
Yeah, I think Mimi, I really appreciate you sharing your story because I know that that's hard to go back to that space. I didn't know I was gonna cry.
I thought I was. I
remember
dealt
we're
with
letting it flow
and
today.
I was done.
But some of those things, you have no fault in it, but that's a part of a fabric. It's a part of who you are and kind of your experiences and your journey, and that's nothing to be shameful about. But I think that those are the things that we have, these secrets in family, and we have not. Sometimes they're not secrets, but like you said, your parents weren't able to help provide healing, and so I think we are left to be okay and figure it out. And like they said, we want to cry, but we got shit to do. And I think coming back to that, just that question, like, you good, that is so
powerful.
Like that, there's so much in that statement because we're not. 9 times out of 10, we're not somewhere, whether it was the child in us that, is still that those childhood things, whether it's I'm seeing these things happen. Yes, I think you good just really needs to take that's a different question now for me, because you can be happy, you could be healthy in aspects of your life, but are you really good? And I think it's just really it saddens me to know all of the healing and all the coping that is not happening because we're not even able to acknowledge that there may be something that is not good. And it doesn't make you less than a person. It doesn't make you less successful. It doesn't make you not feel happy or feel good about yourself in some aspect, but there's something there that needs help.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I feel like, too, I mean, just in general, not only is mental health not taken seriously in Black households, but I feel like physical health, too. Because I feel like it all kind of comes together. Like that, you good isn't something that was ever asked in my household. Like I said, you just had to be. Like me and my mom are very close. My mom's my best friend, and she can sense when something's wrong with me. Like now, as an adult, she'll ask me something like, you know, I can kind of tell something's up with you. But I don't remember like ever coming up and having like an open conversation with my parents. Like I'm not feeling good about. I mean, even I wasn't close to my mom until just recently because it wasn't like a comfortable, like I can come to you and talk to you about anything kind of setting, and I feel like that's something I definitely want to take away from when I have children. I'm not saying be your friend, be their friend,
curse.
but you do need to ask the "you good" kind of questions. And like even in my I could have used that like as a teenager. Like I was dealing with a lot of stuff just from like in my household and school and stuff like that. Bullying is really big right now, and there's a lot of parents that aren't in tune with their children to know that this is something that might be causing them anxiety or
or your sisters and your brothers or your friends or like there's so many roles that you know most of our parents aren't going to get. A lot of these studies and practices are just developing and usually really haven't been claimed or used by the Black families at this point. But I think I'm learning to really ask my friends this and also like be able to tell. I think it's something about the power of being able to listen to your friend and know when something's not good. And I think that takes time, of course. But I think sometimes we pass each other and life gets so busy. Like time is of the essence, especially sometimes you just don't have time to sit down and talk to somebody, but we have to make that time.
Right.
We really have to make it because there's a lot of things that are going on. Like there's a lot of things that I've been through that I can share how I dealt with them that may help somebody else, but we've never even sat down to have a conversation. So I don't even know that I wouldn't even know to share these things.
Right.
Communication is key. We definitely have to have open dialogue and talk about let's talk about our feelings. Like as cliche as that sounds, like you have to put that out there. You have to talk about how you feeling and what's going on and what are you doing to deal with it and what we can do around each other to help us get through those hard times.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, in college I studied what's called intergroup dialogue. And one of the things that I will always take away from the process that I went to become a facilitator was that there's three types of, we can categorize, communication in three types of ways. Into debate, where, that's an argument, somebody's trying to prove a point to one another. Discussion, where you're trying to come to some sort of conclusion, a solution or something. And dialogue is where you're seeking understanding. And I think a lot of households and a lot of relationships, whether they're friendships, romantic, familial relationships, they are in discussion and debate. And I think we need more dialogue. We need to just, instead of talking about something like depression or molestation or anxiety, it doesn't always need to right away be about the solution. What it needs to be is I need to understand the experience that you're going through.
Let's talk about the hurt.
Yeah.
Let's open that wound up. Let's talk about the hurt. Let's dive into it. And then we can start the healing process.
Exactly. And I think we miss that a lot. And it's like, okay, well, you're just going to have to get it together because, it's happened to a lot of people. You ain't the only one.
Right.
Or, it happens. I'm sorry it happened to you. But what about understanding what happened to you? Yeah. How did that make you feel? I think it's something that I'm trying to live further. And definitely, if ever becoming a mother, that's something important. As I've always said, that I learned something in a women's studies class that most of our lives, our mothers are our mothers. But there becomes a transitional point where we see our mothers as women. And I think that point is where we start to have more of those conversations. And I know that's impacted my relationship with my mom as well, is that I start to see her as a woman. So as I start to see her as a woman, I start to hear about these things that she was going through that are similar to the things that I'm going through, but we've never talked about them.
Right.
So I think it's so important to really stop and think about the people in your life as, instead of the role that they play, but as who they are and their journey. Yeah. And I think that helps us be able to have those conversations of understanding without prejudgment,
right?
Or jumping to conclusion. That's because some things about the relationship you have with them. So you can be like, well, that's why she was over here doing this. But maybe it's not.
Right.
Maybe something else in that person's context or their story may be impacting how they're interacting with you.
Yeah. I know for my family, it's definitely something that's been generational. And I'm sure plenty of Black families and households. My grandmother didn't talk about her mental state, or I just found out that my grandma did have, have some mental issues. And okay, now it makes sense that my mom is, was going through what she's going through. Maybe it makes sense why I'm a little cray, or not even to say cray. It's not a joking matter. I have my issues, so it makes sense. So we need to definitely talk about it and open up those dialogues, so I can try to understand who I am and what I'm dealing with. So so we can all understand.
Yeah. I think another thing that I've heard recently is like a lot of people are saying that we have a misdiagnosis of bipolar disorder disease, or everybody ain't depressed, or all these things. And I really encourage us to learn about these things, because I learned a lot about my mother in my psychology classes, and I learned a lot about my grandmother and I've learned about my family in these classes that were geared to me studying these different things. And I would be in class like, wait a minute, that sounds just like so-and-so. And I think we are so quick to have these reactions to be like, no, that's not real. She just need to get her shit together, or he just needs to do this, and it's not even all of that serious, and you don't need to be going to get no medicine, no doctor, and all that shit involved. But at the end of the day, like, these things are studied. This is not something that just popped up out of nowhere. Yeah, we can try. So I'm all for holistic healing. I don't believe that, medicine should be the cure to everything. I don't. That's not how I live my life. But we need to think about options for people. We need to think about the realities that people are living. I've learned that there's people in my family that I've had to come to the conclusion that they just do not have the capacity to deal with certain things in the way that I think is healthy. And as hard as that is, and how that may have impacts on their kids or whatever, that's where we have to step in as a community and as that village that raises those children. But we have to be honest.
We first have to acknowledge that this is real stuff. That's like you were saying, medicine is an answer, but you do have to acknowledge that this person might have a real problem. They might really have anxiety. Like, it's not something that's made up. Just because you don't experience anxiety or depression doesn't mean that it's
not real.
Right.
And I think, I'm glad you brought anxiety back up, because I know in our What About Your Friends episode, I mentioned a friend that just doesn't show up, and that has nothing to do with me. And that's because that person has anxiety. And I've had to learn, and I've had to read about what that means. And so I've had to understand that it's not about me. And sometimes I think that's hard for us to swallow, is that it's not about you. That person has something else in their journey we all have our hurdles that we have to jump over and that we have to overcome. And some of us walk over them. Some of us can run over them. Some of us trip back, fall, and have to go back, set it back up, and try it again. But I have to accept, and, I appreciate her being able to share what that is, so I could understand her context and provide me the opportunity to understand more about what that is.
Right.
I think we all have a little tick. It's just what's capacity.
Trigger it.
Yeah. What's going to trigger it, or how are we going to cope with it? Or, you're going to go out and party and, pretend like these issues don't exist, or you're going to drink, or you're going to do some drugs, or you're going to become promiscuous. We just, it's how we deal with it.
That reminds me so much of Cranes in the Sky by Solange. Like, that song, y'all don't know, when that song came out, I was just like, if this is not everything that every person needs to hear, and I think I'm getting emotional listening to it, because you try to drink it away, you try to shop it away, you try to just do it away, but it's still there.
You're not really dealing with it, or
you're gonna look at it. It's like you have to find that healing, and it causes you to stop and make time to invest in yourself.
Yeah, I don't really think like I said, I do tell people, like, when I'm upset about something. That's why I feel like I don't really internalize a lot of things, but I do feel like I'm not the best at letting it go. Like, even after I tell you about how I feel about it, I still kind of, like, hold that against you later.
You hold grudges.
I do, and it's not healthy.
Y'all should be grudging against me. It's all right. I be bullying sometimes.
She's a bully.
We both growing.
No, but I do kind of like.
She said she's a bully.
We have to go back to that.
Don't even forget my train of thought.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, see, I was sitting here embracing this
being
time.
a bully. No, I get
it. You were saying that you hold grudges.
Yeah. I still hold that against, like, I'm sorry. I lost
Still
it.
hold on to it, even if you get out what you have to say.
Why do you think you hold on to it?
I think that tells me a lot about people, and I think that, like I talked about in our friendship episode, like I learned stuff about people, and it just because I excuse it or just because I move past it doesn't mean that I forgot that you did that, and that's what's stopping me from creating long-lasting relationships with people, and I feel like that does bother me. So I feel like when I am going through something, it's hard for me to find people to talk to about it because I don't trust my circle, I guess, per se. The only person I talk to about my issues is my mom. So I might discuss with you, like, I didn't like when you did that. But then also now when I'm looking for a friend, I don't trust you, or I don't feel like I can come to you and talk to you about anything. So I don't know if it makes sense. But
it makes sense. It makes sense to me.
I don't have anybody to go to vent to. Because
so you eliminate that person, like they don't have that luxury.
You also don't provide them a space to grow from your feedback. Because maybe that person did.
You should grow from my feedback and apply it to a relationship with somebody else. I'm not going to give you the opportunity
to
somewhere
else.
But do you not feel that people give you that mercy? That you messed up and people still allow you to?
Yeah, and that's them opening themselves up. That's risky. I mean, not like I would do anything to cross somebody.
But how would that? It's the same thing. Like, how do you?
Not. Because if you feel comfortable enough, like, that's just something I personally don't feel like I can overcome. Like, if you do something that I feel like you crossed me or I can't trust you again, then I learned my lesson. Like, it's a mental no. But if you feel like, okay, well, we talked it out and maybe she won't do it again, like, that's on you taking that chance on people. I'm not that kind of person. So if you show any sort of signs of, like...
So they get one shot.
Yeah, I'm not saying, like, I won't speak to them, like I won't
deal with them on
them,
that level.
But I don't have a lot of friends that I talk to about like daily things that really upset me. Like I'll have a conversation with somebody about something they specifically did to make me feel some sort of way, but I don't have people that I go to be like, you know what, I'm dealing with this and it's really bothering me and I feel like I can't shake this and maybe you can help me figure my way out. Like, I mean,
Do you feel like that ever limits your growth?
I feel like it's something that I may need to work on because just even thinking of it from like a relationship standpoint,
Yeah,
I've never,
question.
huh?
That was my next question.
Yeah, it's going to be a struggle. The next person I
yeah.
decide to be with is going to just have to understand I'm not that person to automatically open up to you. I'm not that person to automatically trust. I know there's some people, like I think you said, you give people that benefit of the doubt to where you allow them, like you trust people before they earn your trust.
Yeah, I don't believe that trust is something that you have to earn. I believe it's something that you can lose.
Absolutely.
But I don't start off with like, you at ground zero, you got to get up to level 5 before I'm going to release this information, just because that doesn't work for me. Mm-hmm. And I think, with that said, I think that, I would be concerned that you may be missing out on some ways to deal with coping and healing because you're not providing people space to be people.
Yeah, but also when I'm going to people and releasing, like, girl, I'm really going through something right now. Like, now you know something about me. You know kind of like a weakness about me or something I don't handle well.
That they may use against you.
And I don't do well with opening up. And you know that. We've been friends for a while. But yeah, I said all that to basically say, like, a part of something that I know that I could work on as far as, like, maybe being in a better emotional place with myself is, like, learning to not hold on to things. I mean, learning to confide in people sometimes, letting people be there for you. Absolutely. I don't necessarily let people be there for me when I know that I probably should. I could use sometimes like a little support, like, oh, you'll be okay, like, come on, get up, like, you'll be good. Like, I don't allow anybody to, because for me to allow you to do that would require me to open up to you about what's really have me down, and I can't do that. I don't know how.
I think you can, because it has to do with ability. But you're just not in the space to do it. Because I think you have the ability to do it.
Absolutely.
And also, do I want to? I don't think I do.
Yeah. I
feel like
do what works for you.
Right. No, I'm saying like not like I don't want to. I'm saying is I know that that would help me to not hold on to so many things. But I also feel like too, I need to get to a place where I have to stop feeling like everybody
after you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's
heavy to hold on to mentally.
It's heavy, and then everybody will be after you, even when they're not.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been in that space before, where the way that I live my life is a result of living my life a different way. It's not that I haven't, partaken in, trusting people. Like, I haven't always just provided people trust. But from my experience of changing my behavior, I've seen a change and result in how my relationships are and how bountiful those are.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that I'm a person that most of my best friends, if they tell you like when they first knew me, like it took them a long time to get to know me. And I think people can create conceptions of me, just kind of how I interact. But it took me a while to learn how to release myself, to let people know me, because I'm a person people come to for counsel a lot, but nobody is ever asking me how I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Or nobody, yeah, you know what I mean? Like nobody was doing that. I can't say that now in my life, because I do think I do have a circle that's very supportive. But that's not how most of my life is. It's like, oh, I'm going through this, and not like it's not a bother to me.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy being able to be that space and that release for you.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say from my experience, learning to know that people are growing has been one of the biggest gifts for me. So I can tell you something today. We can talk 3 years from now. You've had space to be able to grow, and you've also had space to be able to regress, and you've also had space to be able to maintain. But I don't think, from the way that I live my life, that it's fair that if you do one thing that upsets me, for me to just shut the whole operation down, because you're a gifted person. I believe every person is gifted. There's some people that are not going to be in my life and that don't need to be, but I think that we limit ourselves by holding grudges.
That's true. I don't personally hold grudges because I feel like I'm not friends with a lot of people, and I don't allow a lot of people in my space. But the people that I do allow in my space are people that I feel are genuine, and I'm not gonna hold a grudge against you. We're gonna talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna be done with it, and what we about to eat. But other people, my sister is just like you. She will hold a grudge.
I don't think it's a grudge.
What?
No, I think it's a grudge. Or
Why?
you hold a perception. Maybe that's
That's
word.
why I'm like, it's not a grudge, because it's not like I'm not fucking with you no more.
But you're not though.
But it's like,
But you're not.
what kind of fool would I be for you to show me who
But
you
it doesn't
really
make
are?
you a fool. That's the part you not.
How
like,
is it
doesn't
not? You
make
show me
a
who you
fool.
really are, and I'm not gonna.
That may not be
remember
who
that.
they really are.
Like, aren't you supposed to learn from your lessons?
But
Like,
that
you
may
taught
not
me-
be who they really are. Maybe that was a poor choice that they made in trying to figure out who they are and how they interact. So, like, you don't know that that's what that person... And also, you're not sure that's that person's intentions. You're not understanding where they're coming from, why they did what they did. And because you have all of that, you lack that knowledge,
Am
you
I
can't
supposed
say that
to-
you know.
feel sympathetic, like, because you might be going through something. The way that you treated me is supposed to make it any better. The way that so if you did something to me that hurt me, and then you come back later and be like, oh, I'm sorry, I was dealing with XYZ when this happened, so my apologies. Does that lesson that you made me feel some sort of way? Like,
You have to
you
find
hurt me?
understanding. Like,
Like-
you have to understand where that person is coming from in the space that they may have been in when they
We make
reacted or
mistakes.
acted a certain way
Yeah.
towards you. Because let me tell you, that's going to happen so much in a relationship, and you cannot.
There won't be a relationship.
Yeah, you cannot be like that.
I'm the only single one in this room, right?
No, but
I don't
that's
do.
we
I
want that. We want you
learn,
to
like-
be able to have that for you, not to just have a relationship with a man or have your friendships. But I see all that you have to offer, and I see where that
Yeah.
is stunted at the same time, because you are not releasing other people's mistakes. But at the same time, we all make mistakes.
Yes.
There's a way that I
Every
interact
day.
with you that may be a mistake. And if you just shut me down, you're depriving me from the space
Yeah.
to grow and
Yeah.
for us to share what could be a still very successful and
Because
very...
what are y'all doing then
Right.
if your friendship is not going to grow? If
Yeah.
you
So then you
stopped
just
at that
have me
point?
around, but in
Yeah.
my back of my head, I already know that you have this perception of me, which is going to make me feel guarded and
Right.
make me
And pull
interact
back.
with you a
Yep.
certain way that's going to reflect what you already feel.
Yep.
So
Right.
that's the energy you're already putting
Yeah, you're
out.
projecting
and
that.
you're projecting that energy, and you're deflecting what you're doing, because I'm sure there's been times where your friends have not liked something that you've done, but they've said,
No, let me not say
that's
nothing.
especially even just the example that you provided about, you were in a space with your body and what you didn't feel good about yourself, and you were mean to your friends, and that's the same thing. You could have really hurt one of them, but I would hope in a space that they would seek understanding as to where you are and still understand and see value in the relationship beyond just that interaction. Now, do I
Right.
believe you should allow people to abuse you or to disrespect you? But no, I don't. But I do believe that because we all have different contexts, you have to sometimes show people what respect means to you, and also understand what that means to them, because they mean different things. How we all interact with one another, we have different stances on what that looks like. And if we don't talk about it, I know I'm always going to be offensive,
Yeah.
just because I live my life a different way than you.
Right. Makes sense.
But it doesn't mean that we can't share or learn from each other and there can't be an honest, genuine relationship and you can't call me to tell me what's going on in your life. That doesn't mean that.
Mm-hmm.
It just means I may have said something that was off-putting to you. But if you hold that and I'm releasing from it, then we're not doing anything.
Right. Space. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some things that we do to release some energy and get it out?
Well, as of lately, I've been working out quite often, and I feel like it does help me. I feel like it definitely does. I've been writing down my thoughts a lot, too. One of my good friends bought me a journal and for my birthday, and I've been using that just like the past couple of weeks, and I see a difference in just like letting my thoughts all out. And in this journal, it has like a couple of like reflective questions, and I feel like that's really helping me.
Working out as well. If I don't work out, there is some pent up energy and aggression that needs to get out. I've been working out early in the morning before I even start my day. That makes my day so much better. And just taking 2 minutes to just sit and be quiet and meditate and be still and think about my goals, what I want to do, the energy I want to put out into the world today, and who I want to be. So that has been helping me so much.
I think for me, meditation is really big. I don't know if you guys have ever listened to Londrell, but he has some great affirmations just to, I don't know, it's just like 2017 Black woman manifesting type of meditation for me. I think stretching, so yoga. Many people don't know this about me, but I do write poetry. I just don't share it with anybody.
I did not know
so,
that.
That's something that I do. That's something that I keep. It's just not something that I
Will
share.
you write a piece for us and share it on the next episode?
Who is she putting somebody on the spot? You talking about growth?
Come
on,
this is what this is all about. Poetry.
That's your homework.
Okay.
You always give everybody else homework.
So I can take the homework. Yeah, that's. I definitely already have some pieces that I can write. Okay. But maybe I'll write something on, just like this experience that we've been having so far.
Yeah.
I think my sister circles are my release. So I have different friends that I call for different things. And I think that's being cognizant of my relationships and kind of where people are too at the same time, because I never want to put somebody in space when I know they dealing with some stuff and get mad because they react a certain way.
Right.
Also financial advising. I think a lot of things for me that emotionally frustrate me or I find a space has to do with my financial health. And I've seen that correlation, so I try to be as honest with it as possible. And so I think seeking financial counseling or advising can do a lot of help in terms of how you feel about yourself and how your life is set up. Being able to travel and not having to come back and work 24/7 and really being balanced in that way. Those are ways that with me that help.
So kind of circling back to something I touched on at the beginning of the episode, calling a foul. Like, are y'all comfortable, or have y'all ever called somebody out on something that they've done, an action or something they said to you that really hurt you, and letting them know that I didn't like what you did to me and this is why and this is how I felt about it?
Yes, I have to do this. I have to, if I care about you, if I love you, I have to tell you what's right and what's wrong and what I see and how I see it's affecting you, how I see it's affecting us. I have to get it out. If I don't, I'm going to be sick to my fucking stomach. I can't. It has to get out. Like.
So what is an example and how did it end?
I don't know if I should talk about this. Called out a family member about some drug use that I observed, and they thought they were hiding it or masking it, and it ended up being an emotional conversation and them telling me that I don't understand and I'm judgmental, when all the while I'm not the best at how I communicate things, and I'm working on that, but it was out of love, it was out of care, and that's all I wanted them to understand was I love you. I'm here for you. I don't like seeing you this way. And I want you to get better. And you should, we should try to work on this. So, yeah, that's where it was left.
Yeah, I think I'm a person that, because I've seen myself grow in a lot of ways, I really try to treat others with that same regard. And so I know a lot of things that won't say aren't always, and I think people can be in different spaces with this, but if something's outright foul, I'll say something. But in that conversation, or before I have that conversation, I'll think about, I'll meditate on that, and I'll reflect on what the situation is. And I like to have that conversation with I statements. I've seen this. I don't like to say, you're doing this, so you need to do that, and this is you. Mm-hmm. This is what I'm seeing. This is how I feel about it. What do you think? Mm-hmm. That's the you that comes in, is what do you think? And so I think how I lead that conversation is very important to me. It's something I'm still working on with kind of more informal things, but when it's something, I definitely try to think of, if I'm hurt by something, is this me being hurt? Really, did you hurt me, or is this something that I'm insecure about? Mm-hmm. I think that's important to think about. Not to say that you don't still approach that person, but to understand where this conversation is really coming from. Are you trying to tell somebody off? Are you trying to prove something to yourself? What is that conversation? And I think it would be nice to see if more people took that time and that reflective space before they have conversations that sometimes I think become more damaging because there's not thought put into what the conversation needs to be.
Definitely. So what are some things that y'all think in the Black household in particular that may lead to a mental and emotional health issue?
Silence.
Absolutely. I think that's something, like what I was saying before, it needs to be addressed. I feel like white families constantly take their kids to therapy or are more than willing to address the mental issues. Like they'll go and get their kids Ritalin, and I don't know. They'll go and get you whatever you need to be stable. But Black parents will be quickly like, I'm not putting my kids on, and they just not.
We need you to slow down, Timmy. Have a seat.
Stuff like that. But it's just like I said, not speaking on it is the most damaging thing that you can do.
Yeah, that's true. I think in not having the toolbox of resources. So I took this family communications class before, and it was one of my favorite classes because I learned so much about the dynamics of family, when you have kids and compared to time of when you get married, if you get married, and all these different things. And one thing that stood out to me is I remember one day we were talking about whoopings and spankings and all these other things, and I'm like, okay. I'm not a person who believes that should be the only thing that you would do as a form of punishment. Right. But what I've learned is when we talk about mental and emotional health, what are the things that are in your toolbox, your resources? So there's not one problem that's going to solve everybody's issues. And I think sometimes what I think, if we say the state of the Black family, and understand that's a generalization, but that I'm okay with having that generalization for this conversation, is I think we lack tools in our toolbox.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
I think there's a lack of resources that we are connected with. Not that there are a lack of resources in this world, and I think a lot of that has to do with some closed-mindedness sometimes. Sometimes it has to do with ignorance. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it has to do with, religious beliefs. I think that impacts things if we're speaking very honestly about, go pray on it. Prayer, I think, is absolutely a warranted space of healing, but is that going to work for everybody? And is that the only thing that we should do? No, we can't pray everything away. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that prayer is here to connect us with other things. And so I think the silence and the lack of having items in our toolboxes really keep us in a very dangerous state.
That's a real statement. I was actually having a conversation with a friend the other day, and she was telling me about some things that she's struggling with, and she went to her mom to talk to her mom about it. Her mom was just like, just pray on it, baby. And I'm not saying that's not something that you should not do, but that's the only answer you can offer me. I'm coming to you and you think I haven't done that already? You as my mom, I'm coming to you for guidance, and you think I haven't prayed on it already? Yeah. That's the only thing you can offer me to help me get through this.
Yeah. I think sharing stories, too. I've grown so much by hearing my mom's stories and hearing, the struggle she's had with her emotional and mental health. And I think if that plays into the silence, but really sharing your story, being vulnerable enough to say, I was doing this is what I did, this is what happened. And I think we have these images that we don't even know that people in our lives have gone through anxiety, who struggle with anxiety or depression or these things, because we just don't know really who that person is besides grandma, auntie, uncle. Mm-hmm. We don't know the stories about, when I was at this age, this is what happened. And I think a lot of that comes from the secrets that are kept because we don't want to look a certain way. There's a lot of molestation. There's a lot of rape. There's a lot of abuse, emotionally, mentally, physically, that happen in our Black households, and we are very silent about them. We want to keep them secret because we don't want to look a certain way. And I think that festers, and that is not healthy, and that creates so many other unhealthy relationships because we're chasing and we're acting based upon how our family was functioning or dysfunctioning.
Absolutely.
We don't want to look a certain way, and also they don't know how. I don't know how to tell my kids that I've gone through this too, or you know, share my story as to what I've been through. They don't know how. It's generational. They don't talk about it.
Nobody ever
it's not that it wasn't there. The more I find out, I'll be like, what happened? And so-and-so had a baby over here, then that baby was raised by so-and-so, and then all of that is damaging to a person.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So I know y'all been seeing this video of Miss Maxine Waters talking about reclaiming her time.
Reclaiming my time, okay? I mean, reclaiming my time.
And I'm all for it.
Auntie
so,
Maxine.
What are your thoughts around that? What are some ways that y'all are reclaiming y'all time?
I think that's so applicable. I think a lot of the depression that I was going through in college was really me trying to fight battles that I could bring some healing to and I could shed some light on, but it wasn't my responsibility to resolve. And so I got overwhelmed with taking on so many things. So when I hear that, that's what I immediately think of is reclaiming my time, my space, my value, because that time is so powerful. If I'm spending time doing all these other things to try to fight against something or be negative when I could be sharing my story, and that's how I want to reclaim my time, that's, to me, it's just very powerful.
Oh, absolutely.
Reclaiming my energy and the energy I allow around me.
The allow. We got power, y'all.
Yes.
We have choice. We have agency.
Don't come around my way with that. I'm not going to entertain that negative energy. You keep that away from me. And I'm trying my best to not project that negative energy onto anybody else. And I check myself. So.
Well, definitely. I think I'm very selective about who I let around me. Like, I feel like I wasted a lot of time. I wasted a lot of time and energy on people that did not deserve me. You didn't deserve me. You definitely didn't deserve my time. So can't get that back from you, but I know going forward what I am going to do is be very selective about who I give my time and energy to, because I'm working on me right now. And the time I'm giving to you and the energy I'm giving to you, I could be working on
myself.
And
reclaim it.
Yes.
Reclaim it. I think this is what she's saying is a good message for, everybody, especially just the larger Black community. Reclaim your time.
Absolutely.
Because we spend a lot of time on a lot of things that are not deserving.
Necessary. They're not helping us grow. They're hindering us.
Or they're helping us maintain in a space. I think sometimes we look at, regression or making things worse. Sometimes maintaining where we're at is not healthy.
Yes, absolutely.
No, I definitely, I'm like, I have to be grown. I have to see growth within myself where I start feeling down about myself. I think that's something that helps me stay on track with my goals. Like, I have to be able to, like, visibly see
or feel the
some sort of accomplishment or I get down about myself. So what does it mean or what does it look like for you ladies to be emotionally and mentally balanced? Like, or do you feel like that's even something that's ever possible to obtain?
I think it's possible. I think that includes sometimes me tripping up and outbursting and really being able to look back and have that conversation. I think what it means is instead of me chasing this idea of what my life should look like, I'm able to embrace where my life is and how I feel and feel good about myself and seek the counsel and the help that I need, even if I'm hesitant to do it, to really build the resources in my toolbox and not be silent. Those are I absolutely think this is something that we can attain. I don't think there's a perfect. I think balance is such a powerful word, because balance means it could be 60-40, it could be 80-20, it could be 50-50. You know what I mean? Like, but it's just a matter of how, sometimes it's going to be up, but what are we doing to make sure that we're stable? Like, what are we doing?
Right.
Sometimes it's not going to be that direct split. But what does that balance look like for you? And figuring out what that looks like for you is important.
I'm a Libra, so those scales sometimes are a little unbalanced. And when I feel myself becoming unbalanced, I've learned to check myself because my turn up can be real and I don't want to turn up on nobody and I don't want to be that way anymore. So just recognizing when I'm off balance and figuring out how to get back on track.
Mm-hmm. I think also to have this balance, you need to not have shame. And I think shame is something that, definitely I was raised with that idea, shame and guilt. I don't think you're always able to work around them, but I think really being intentional about taking shame out of it, like the embarrassment thing too. Like we both were talking about how we, had that outburst of just crying and that release. But what was more so like just uncomfortable was like, I just was in there crying while these goddamn people, like, what the hell?
They
but
see
really,
me like
but
that?
like really being able to own your experience, really being able to just try things. And if they don't work, you tried, and really not saying, disciplining yourself or punishing, not discipline, but punishing yourself for trying to be better, even if it doesn't look the way that you thought it would look.
Right.
Because I think the balance to me is not punishing yourself, but, encouraging yourself and also celebrating your victories, even if they're small.
So what are some things that you ladies recommend for anybody who's trying to obtain that mental and emotional balance? Like, what are some things that you do to get you back on track when you feel like, all right, I'm a little off, I'm a little on edge, I need to get back on track? What do y'all suggest that they do?
I spend time with myself.
Yes, I was going to say that. I talk to myself like, bitch, you are tripping. This is what we need to do. This is we.
This is we.
Us.
Okay, right. It's one. We is one.
We need to do A, B, and C to get your ass back to where you need to be. Like, you have to really check yourself. You have to have those hard conversations with yourself. And like the Sola T said, have those conversations with yourself.
Yeah, and I think I also ask for feedback because y'all know I'll be on my quarterly arrangements. But
oh man, the spreadsheets and the quarterly girl, her quarterly check-ins is real.
But I really do. I really do believe in I can experience what I experience from myself, but I think that my loved ones can see things that I may not see. So being able to have those conversations and being like, I've been feeling a little off. Have you picked up on something? Without expecting them to just bring it up to me, because I know that there's some sensitivities that they want to allow me to be me, but really being able to touch base and say, like, I've been feeling this way. Like, have you seen any different behavior? Like, what have you done? I am also big on go find you a therapist. And if the first one ain't work, keep trying. I don't think therapy is necessarily the right solution for everybody, but I think that especially people who don't have those friendships or those companionships in which they feel open to talk with, I think going to see a therapist right now is one of the best decisions I've ever made. And again, it's not that I went to go see this person in crisis, but if you do, that's great. But really, I'm able to just talk. And this person doesn't have a personal context for me.
Right. One thing I know that we didn't touch on, I know we're trying to wrap up, but we haven't talked about suicide. And that's pretty much people that cannot find that emotional and stable balance. Like, that's what it leads to. Yeah. Suicidal thoughts, suicide. And they don't have any, especially in the Black community, in the Black households, they don't have anybody to talk to about that, because suicide is something that, for one, it's for the weak. My mom always told me, and in my household, period, not like I ever had suicidal thoughts, but she would always say people who are suicidal are weak. Stuff is always going to be hard. It's always going to be something hard in your life. But for you to give up and not be able to see this pass and good things to come, like you couldn't make it through this, that means that you're weak. And I mean, I've never experienced suicidal thoughts, but I do know for somebody who is suicidal to be able to hear something similar to that, or to go and talk to their family and be told, like, you're weak, and if you can't think your way out of this, then
that wouldn't make me want to be here anymore.
Right. So
the only thing that stopped me when I was a kid and I had those thoughts was the fact that I'm scary. I didn't want to see blood. I didn't want to hang. Like, it was just, I couldn't think of a way to get out of here without it being so dramatic. So like seriously, that's the only thing that I'm scary, and I didn't want to, I don't want nobody to find me like that. So people that don't have those fears, like it's real. It's a real. Those are real.
And
thoughts.
I think the way that we think of, and it goes again that, the way that we think about something is not the way that somebody else experiences life. And so I think that's always good to remember, and just in general. And I feel for people who deal with that on a daily basis, because that is a battle. And I think, every day that they continue to strive to be in a place that is very hard. This world is not easy for any of us to live on, and it does not make you weak in any terms. I would hope to extend something to help you see, some other options. But that's a space that is valid. And I think we don't think about our words, and we don't think about how our perspective is ours. And so I've had people, in the last couple of years that I've grown up with that have committed suicide. And, when I think about some of those people, it's crazy because, like, that was a person that was always smiling, always not, nothing about them was weak. And I think there's a difference between weakness and vulnerability in life. It's a
misconception.
And yes, it's a misconception. And life happens so hard. And sometimes we don't feel that we have these resources, and sometimes we damn sure don't. Like we just don't. And so I think that with that you good conversation, if that could just be deeper, and if that could be more open, rather than just saying you good from your perspective, but really seeking that understanding and having that dialogue around, I've seen this going on. Like, what, what are some things we could try? And I think it's hard as the friend. I think it's hard as, the parent. I think it's hard it's extremely hard as that person. And I don't think that we're all equipped to deal with that. And I think that that's what we need to research, is how we can be more equipped.
Yeah. What scares me is that it's happening younger and younger, especially like with bullying and everything being so bad the way it is now with social media, and kids experiencing that at a younger age. Is just like, we're talking about it from a point of view as like being an adult, and we're having a better sense of ourselves and how we deal with things like that. But think of being a child
or an elderly person.
Yeah,
we don't talk about that either.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, getting up in age and you've lost everybody. For one, like, I'm talking about how I don't want to go to my friends to talk about stuff. What if I didn't have any? Exactly. I really lost everybody and I'm older, and it's just, you don't look at it from a perspective of somebody else, like where they are in their life. And I do think that children now, especially like the high school age, have it very hard because of social media. And I think that bullying is real. I know a lot of Black parents will see it as, don't be a punk. Like, Black parents,
somebody hit you hit them back.
Right.
And it's first, matter of fact.
Right. And it's hard. I can see that being something.
I think all of these pieces of the conversation are real, because there's so many pieces that, it's like we leave this conversation with it being an open conversation. There's no conclusion to this, because it's something that we're all still very much so working on, and we can share what we are doing. And I'm really hoping that we take to Facebook with this conversation, so we can really share gain some tools in our toolbox from one another, because there's so much, and we're all trying to do this by ourselves, and we all don't need to do this by ourselves. So
taking it day by day, but. I mean, definitely, if you feel like you don't have anyone to talk to, I talk to God. I tell him, Jesus is my friend. We have conversations, writing things down, like Ati was saying. Just put them on paper. If you feel like you don't have anybody in this world to turn to, just find some.
Yeah, we have hotlines. We'll definitely post some information, some resources on our Facebook page. And we're here too. Message us. Let us know what's going on. We might not be able to meet you in person or anything like that, but I think that there are some ways that we can all be better. We can engage. We can be better with this as a united front. And we're gonna make some mistakes, because this is something we're all learning. Right. But we gonna get there. I'm hopeful for that. Well, we always gonna leave with some homework. We always got some homework for you. So initially, I think the homework for this episode was to find that space or something, try something new. I think a lot of, what's helped me emotionally and mentally is trying things outside of my box. Those things I was like, I ain't never going to do that. I ain't never going hiking. I love to hike now. I'm never going golfing. I love to, those are the things that you just have to try.
Right.
And so to, go on Facebook events, go on, Groupon, find something that you've never tried before, you may have been curious about, and treat yourself.
I love a good Groupon. I am a frugal
individual. Reclaim your time, reclaim your activities, and find something to do. I think, as well as have a conversation with somebody. Really make the space and time to ask them if they good. Think about some questions like we've asked each other today. Yeah. Google is always my resource. If you don't know how to have a conversation, Google it. You'll have some examples. And that's really how we build our toolboxes. Some of us, we're not going to just have the context of the resources, but to really, you got 2 pieces of homework. You got find something to try that's new that can be a possible outlet for you, and to have a conversation with somebody. Maybe that you've observed
like 3 people.
Yeah,
you
3 people. Check in with them. I know we did that with the Friends episode, but really check in with them and not like, are you good? What's going on in your life? Like, what you been struggling with? Here's what I've been struggling with. I think if we can shape our conversations differently and to really talk about some shit, I think it could really be powerful. So,
absolutely. Well, as always, thank you for tuning in to 3 Queens and Things. Stay tuned for our next episode. Don't forget to head over to our Facebook page. We really want to hear from you guys on this topic. Join the conversation and, like us on Facebook. I'm Ati.
I'm Mimi.
Sola T.
And we're 3 Queens and Things. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.